Meanwhile, the first direct talks between North and South Korea in more than 2 years appears to be paying off. Representatives from North Korea walked across the border overnight and sat down with talks with their South Korean counterparts in the DMZ.
They quickly announced that the North will send athletes to the Winter Olympics, which start next month in South Korea. Officials say they're also laying the groundwork for possible talks on North Korea's nuclear weapons program. Ben Tracy is following the talks from Seoul.
This scene seemed unthinkable just weeks ago. 5 men from the South, 5 from the North shaking hands. Dire warnings of war replaced with diplomatic warmth. The North Koreans said they are serious and sincere, offering what they called invaluable results. They could afford the optimism because the conversation was not about Kim Jong-un's nuclear program. Instead focusing mainly on North Korea's attendance at next month's Winter Olympics. The North quickly offered to send a high-level delegation, including athletes, a cheering squad, and performing arts groups. The South asked that the two countries march together at the opening and closing ceremonies and resume reunions of families separated during the Korean War. North Korea coming to the Winter Games is a big win for South Korean President Moon Jae-in, who has called them the Peace Olympics.
In and of itself, the Olympics is not going to solve anything.
John Delury is an expert on North Korean affairs. He says Kim Jong-un may feel confident enough in his weapons program to now engage in diplomacy. Do you see these talks going beyond the Olympics to something more substantial?
Well, this is a very fragile process, but I'm seeing a lot of political will in Pyongyang and here in Seoul that the two sides want to make this a very different year, that they're serious about dialogue, and that really they're talking about more than the Winter Olympics, but they have to take this step by step.
And Ben Tracy joins us now from Seoul. So Ben, were these talks more productive than many thought they would be?
I think so. I mean, these two sides talked for more than 3 hours today, and they actually got to some pretty substantial issues. They're going to reopen a long dormant military hotline that helps them avoid conflicts along the border. We just found out that during the Pyeongchang Olympics, North Korea is going to be sending representatives to South Korea, that they're going to host further talks about military issues. So yeah, I think this went far beyond just whether or not they would send some athletes to the Olympics. So I think a lot of people here are pretty surprised.
You know, Ben, surprise is one word. I mean, this is a very significant development between these two countries. And what do you think the impetus for that is?
Well, you know, the fact that they're simply talking was significant, and then what they talked about was significant as well. Of course, the elephant in the room that they never got to is the North's nuclear weapons program, which they still will have to address at some point. But the impetus here really is both sides. Moon Jae-in, the president here in South Korea, has been pushing for talks for months. He has said that he wants these Olympics, he's been calling them the Peace Olympics, that he wants this to be a turning point with North Korea. And it seems that he got that win today in these negotiations. For North Korea, what they get out of this is they look better in the world's view. They're now talking to somebody. They're engaging in diplomacy. And I talked to an expert here today, and he said, you know, it's pretty clear to North Korea that Washington is not ready to talk to them because the Trump administration is saying, unless you get rid of your weapons, we're not going to talk to you. And North Korea is saying, we're not going to get rid of our weapons. So they've come to South Korea because they know the South Koreans did want to talk. So you do at least have the beginning of what is some diplomacy in the midst of what has been a very tense period here on the Korean Peninsula.
You know, Ben, in light of what you just said, some critics warn that this certainly could be an opportunity for Kim Jong-un's regime to create a wedge between South Korea and the U.S. Is that a concern? Is that something that South Korea or the U.S. is aware of?
No doubt about it. North Korea, any opportunity it gets to create a wedge between the U.S. and South Korea, it will do it. And that's because that alliance is aimed at North Korea. So they view this as kind of putting the U.S. on the sidelines. They now have these direct talks. One of the things that they talked about late in the day here today was that they really want to resolve these issues within Korea, which is a very direct way of saying they don't want the U.S. involved. So as of now, they're trying to, you know, these talks, when they're not centered around nuclear weapons or intercontinental ballistic missiles, they want to handle those things here. And then down the road, obviously, they would have to talk with the U.S.
All right, Ben Tracy for us in Seoul. Ben, thank you so much.